Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavad-Gita as it is, chapter 4 entitled Transcendental Knowledge, and text number 7. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srajam yaham. Yada yada, whenever and wherever. He, certainly. Dharmasya, of religion. Glanihi, discrepancies. Bhavati, become manifested. Bharata, O descendant of Bharata. Abhyutanam, predominance. Dharmasya, of irreligion. Tada, at that time. Atmanam, self. Srijami, manifest. Aham, I. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Sri Prabhupada. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Please repeat. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Purport. The word Srijami is significant herein. Srijami cannot be used in the sense of creation, because according to the previous verse, there is no creation of the Lord's form or body, since all of the forms are eternally existent. Therefore, Srijami means that the Lord manifests Himself as He is. Although the Lord appears on schedule, namely at the end of Dvapara Yuga of the 28th millennium of the 7th Manu in one day of Brahma, He has no obligation to adhere to such rules and regulations, because He is completely free to act in many ways at His will. He therefore appears by His own will whenever there is a predominance of irreligiosity and a disappearance of true religion. Principles of religion are laid down in the Vedas, and any discrepancy in the matter of properly executing the rules of the Vedas makes one irreligious. In the Bhagavatam, it is stated that such principles are the laws of God. Only the Lord can manufacture a system of religion. The Vedas are also accepted as originally spoken by the Lord Himself to Brahma from within His heart. Therefore, the principles of Dharma or religion are the direct orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dharman tu Sakshad Bhagavat Pranitam. These principles are clearly indicated throughout the Bhagavad-Gita. The purpose of the Vedas is to establish such principles under the order of the Supreme Lord, And the Lord directly orders at the end of the Gita that the highest principle of religion is to surrender unto Him only and nothing more. The Vedic principles push one towards complete surrender unto Him. And whenever such principles are disturbed by the demonic, the Lord appears. From the Bhagavatam we understand that Lord Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna, who appeared when materialism was rampant and materialists were using the pretext of the authority of the Vedas. Although there are certain restrictive rules and regulations regarding animal sacrifice for particular purposes in the Vedas, people of demonic tendency still took to animal sacrifice without reference to the Vedic principles. Lord Buddha appeared in order to stop this nonsense and to establish Vedic principles of non-violence. Therefore, each and every avatar or incarnation of the Lord has a particular mission, and they are all described in the revealed scriptures. No one should be accepted as an avatar unless he is referred to by scriptures. It is not a fact that the Lord appears only on Indian soil. He can manifest to Himself anywhere and everywhere, and whenever He desires to appear. In each and every incarnation, He speaks as much about religion as can be understood by the particular people under particular circumstances. But the mission is the same: to lead people to God consciousness and obedience to the principles of religion. Sometimes He descends personally, and sometimes He sends His bona fide representative in the form of His son or servant, or Himself in some disguised form. The principles of the Bhagavad-Gita were spoken to Arjuna, and for that matter, to other highly elevated persons, because he was highly advanced compared to ordinary persons in other parts of the world. 2 + 2 = 4 is a mathematical principle that is true in the beginner's arithmetic class and in the advanced class as well. Still, there are higher and lower mathematics. In all incarnations of the Lord, therefore, the same principles are taught, but they appear to be higher or lower in varied circumstances. The higher principles of religion begin with the appearance of the 4 orders and 4 statuses of social life, and will be explained later. The whole purpose of the mission of incarnations is to arouse Krishna consciousness everywhere. Such consciousness is manifest and non-manifest only under different circumstances. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandayaham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guruna Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namustate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindavan Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Abhyutanam Dharmasya Tadatmanam Srijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. So Srila Prabhupada spoke on this verse, 2 times on this verse exclusively, and several times on a combination of verses. And I read his 2 classes where he spoke on this verse exclusively. And in both of them, he's going to some length to describe this word dharma. This word dharma is in the first line of this verse, and a dharma is in the 3rd line of the verse. So Prabhupada, as he explained in other places, has he explained that dharma, actually the word religion, although he's used it here in the word for word and in the translation, the word religion doesn't really convey dharma properly, because religion can have other meanings. Religion in its true sense may mean dharma, but religion is also used in other terms to convey the idea of faith, which can change. Someone by faith may be a Hindu, someone by faith may be a Christian, someone by faith may be a Buddhist, but they may be converted to something else. So Prabhupada explains to quite some length that dharma means that quality that cannot be changed. He gives examples of fire. Fire is always accompanied by heat and light. So if there is no heat, then fire is not there in its true sense. And similarly, sugar is noted by sweetness, or chili is noted by hotness. So if by chance the sugar became hot and the chili became sweet, neither of them would be truly in their dharma. So similarly, he's explained elsewhere, and he's also explained it in this class, that the dharma of a person, even in this material world, you can identify dharma. Because the one quality that everybody, everywhere is doing is they are serving. The politician will serve his constituents. The master will serve his wife, serve his family. The wife will serve the husband. The teacher will serve the children by educating them. The children will serve their parents. Even if somebody thinks that they're independent and thinks they don't have to serve anybody, then they end up serving their own senses. And that means that they are serving Maya in the form of serving their senses. So they're even more entrapped in service. So this is in the material world, this service. But it gives an indication of the true nature of the spiritual soul, which is not simply to do nothing. This true nature of the spirit soul is to be active, and to be active in service. So this service is the dharma of the spiritual soul. But when it's in its pure state, then it's service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that actually dharma really means that we surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and serve Him. Prabhupada has mentioned in his purport also that Krishna says exactly that in 1866. sarva dharman parichaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayashimi mam sujaha. So give up all varieties of religion and simply surrender to me. Prabhupada also goes on to explain how this dharma also means the laws that are given by God. As he also quotes in this purport, Dharma tu sakshat bhagavat prinitam. So this is Yamaraj speaking to his order carriers and explaining that the rules of religion are given by God. And therefore there's really only one set of rules. God doesn't give, as Prabhupada has said in this purport, the representatives of God will speak according to the capacity of the listeners. But actually the laws of God are complete. He says, if you go in America, you have to drive on the right. And if you go to England, you have to drive on the left. So this is not dharma, because according to one government, you drive on the right, and according to another government, you drive on the left. And if you decide yourself, well, I think it's correct to drive on the right, and you go to, even here in India, we're supposed to drive on the left, and you drive on the right, in other countries you'll get arrested. In India you won't. But anyway, that's how it works. So, this quality of dharma, he's giving this two meanings. Dharma means that quality that cannot be changed, that quality of surrender and service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it also means the rules that are given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in the beginning of the fourth chapter, Krishna has talked about the principles of parampara, and he described how he propagates this dharma through the principles of parampara. He hands down this science of devotional service through the saintly kings, because they are the properly qualified recipients who can then use this knowledge to educate all the people in general and have them all working properly according to their constitutional position, according to their duty. While we're in the material world, we have two forms of duties. We have a duty according to the nature that comes with our body, called Naimittika Dharma, and we have the duty according to the soul, which is called Nitya Dharma. So, according to the body, Prabhupada says at the end of this purport that the principle of religion sometimes appear to be higher and they sometimes appear to be lower. And the higher principles of religion begin with the acceptance of the four orders and four statuses of social life, as will be explained later. So this dharma that comes with our bodies, this Naimittika Dharma, if we're acting on the higher principles, the principles that belong with human life, is to act according to Varnashram. Prabhupada has also explained that whether we know the system of Varnashram or not, we still have a particular nature in which we will work and in which we should be engaged. Even in the countries where they don't know about Dharma, like America and like England, like even in a communist country, somebody has to be a ruler, somebody has to be a tradesman, somebody has to be a thinker or a philosopher, and somebody who has to actually look after the cows, grow food, and maintain the economy. So in that way, these principles of religion are established in Varnashram, and the Varnas are established permanently by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lower principles are also described in the Vedas, as Srila Prabhupada is talking about the example of Buddha. In the Vedas, there are principles for people who are in the lower modes of nature. So for them, animal sacrifices are sometimes recommended. But there are rules and regulations for those animal sacrifices. So Lord Buddha had to come because these rules and regulations were being ignored, because people simply wanted to sacrifice animals and eat the flesh. So going from lower to higher, this is an interesting discussion that's done by Bhakti-Vinod Thakur when he speaks on bhakti-yoga about niyamagraha. So niyamagraha is one of the things that will destroy our devotional service. And the translation of niyamagraha, so niyam means rules and regulations. We know in yoga also we have yama and niyama. So niyama means rules and regulations. But there are two, when you break up this word niyamagraha, agraha can be agraha or agraha. So which one is which I don't remember. But one of them means to be overly attached to the rules and regulations. And the other one means to disregard the rules and regulations. So Bhakti-Vinod Thakur explains that as we progress through our devotional service, and even as the Vedas progress from a lower standard up to Karma Kand and up to Jnana Kand and then up to Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. These are different steps of elevation. And according to each of the different steps of elevation, there are different rules and regulations that one should accept in order to progress on these steps. So, for example, someone in the mode of ignorance, we spoke about, they have some rules and regulations for sacrificing animals. Like they should only do it one day of a month. They should offer to Kali, and they should also accept that if they kill an animal, then they will also be killed in a future life. So this rule is to regulate those who are unregulated, who would rather be completely unregulated. So to give them some regulation in their life and to elevate them, this set of rules is there. And so, but when one becomes purified from this level, as Buddha came along to try and purify the people were not following properly, so Buddha tried to purify. So when one becomes purified on one level, one tries to elevate oneself to the next level. So this level of animal sacrifice is in the mode of ignorance. It's described in the Vedas as a religious practice for people who are in the mode of ignorance. So to elevate themselves to the mode of passion, they have to give up this religious principle and they have to take up the next set of religious principles, which in the mode of passion means to worship the demigods for getting something in return. So when one worships the demigods for getting something in return, this is in the mode of passion, and there are a set of rules for that as well. Now I know that a lot of people in the community outside, throughout India, they have their own manufactured ways of worshipping demigods. So this is also not God's laws. In the Vedas, there are prescribed ways of worshipping the demigods. And in a yajna that worships the demigods, one performs it for some material benefit. But the actual process of this yajna given in the Vedas also includes the worship of Yajna Purusha, who is none other than Lord Vishnu. So by that way, people who follow these rules, even though they're in the mode of passion, and even though they want something in return, they become purified because they're offering something into the yajna, which is also a form of Vishnu. So they go through this stage in the mode of passion, and this set of rules, if they can follow it, this will purify them, and they will become elevated to attain the mode of goodness. And to attain the mode of goodness, then we have to give up this worship of the demigods. And we have to take a new set of rules, which comes in the mode of goodness, comes to worshipping Krishna and to following Varnashram Dharma. So there's still some attachment in the mode of goodness. There's attachment to knowledge, and there's attachment to doing things to provide a better life for oneself, either in this life or in the next life. So one performs one's duty, but with the idea that it will bring something better for oneself. So it's not pure, it's not Shuddha Sattva, it's mode of goodness. So when one comes to devotional service, then we have to give up some of these rules. Now, mode of goodness is kind of our safety net. So we're not giving up all the rules of the mode of goodness. We're giving up some of the rules of the mode of goodness, and we're taking to this eternal religion, this Nitya Dharma, under the direction of the spiritual master. So in the mode of goodness, there are so many rules and regulations. Like for the grihasta, so many rules on when you should fast and which yagyas you should do for your forefathers and which yagyas you should do for this. So many rules are there. But under the direction of the spiritual master, we begin to take up devotional service as a priority, and we maintain mode of goodness as our safety net because we don't want to fall into the lower modes. So we give up what our spiritual master instructs us to give up, and we maintain what he instructs us to maintain. So in this way we come to devotional service and the true principles of religion that are given by God is to surrender to Supreme Personality of Godhead through the instructions of the spiritual master. And then in his book Bhakti-yoga, then Bhaktivinoda Thakur also explains that when you come to devotional service, there are more steps. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Tabhajana Kriya Tata Anarjana Vritti Nishta Ruchi and Bhava and Prem. So these steps also have their own rules and regulations, which when you follow them, you will become purified, and when you go up to the next step, you will give up the rules and regulations of the lower step. An example of the importance of this is if we try and manufacture in our mind and think ourselves more elevated than we are, we imagine we're on some high step, but if we don't know what the rules and regulations are, we have no way to either go up or go down. It's because it's all imaginary. It's like standing on a cloud. We don't have any way to go. But if we take stepwise up through the different stages, then we can learn how to advance by following the rules and regulations. If we don't follow the rules and regulations, then we'll come down again, and gradually we'll come up. So it's described once we get to anartha nivritti and come to the stage of nishta, then our progress becomes steady because we no longer have the anarthas that are going to pull us back. We will gradually make progress. But if we go through Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Madhurya Kadumbini, he explains that according to different types of anarthas, some of them are completely destroyed at this stage and some of them are not quite destroyed. And at different stages, different anarthas are more completely destroyed. Savor aparads are destroyed at at the level of ruchi. Savor aparads are completely gone. But nam aparad doesn't get destroyed until we actually get to prem. If you look, you can also search on ISKCON Desire Tree. There's an article that summarizes it on ISKCON Desire Tree, how the different types of anarthas have a different way of being wiped out. Like there's this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. The whole process is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, and there's a verse, Tado Raja Tamas Bhava. Let me find that verse. Srimad Bhagavatam 1, 2, around about maybe 17. Maybe 18. Okay. 1 to 19. Tada rajas tamobhava kama loba dayaschaye chaitar etar enavidam stitvam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire and hankering, disappear from the heart. The devotee is established in goodness and becomes completely happy. So it's described by the acharyas that at this level, although it says that the modes of passion and ignorance, they're almost destroyed. In the Sanskrit it says chaitayar, etayar and avidam. So chaita, the mind, etayar, by these, and avidam, without being affected. So at this level, which is at the level of nishta, there is still some modes of passion and ignorance, but they're not affecting the mind anymore, because the mind is we are situated in nishta and we are making steady progress. And another example is given is the example of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj fell down because he became attached to a deer. And it's described, Bharat Maharaj was a highly elevated Raja Rishi, and he ruled his country for many years, and he gave up and went into the forest to perform devotional service. And it's described by the acharyas, he was at the level of bhava, and yet he still fell down. He still became sidetracked by anarthas. He became over-attached to the deer, thinking himself the only provider for the deer, and forgetting that Krishna is the provider and protector of everybody. The acharyas also describe that the fault of Bharat Maharaj was because he went alone to the forest to perform his bhajan. They describe that if he had gone into an ashram with other saintly people, then the other saintly people could have corrected him. So this gives us some indication of the importance of the association of devotees. Even if we come to a very advanced stage, without the association of devotees, we're not guaranteed. Our mind can still trick us. We can still come under it. So, right, let's come back to this verse we're supposed to be speaking on. So this is a little bit about dharma. So Krishna is in this section of verses, which I think starts from 5, 4, 6. So from verse 5 or 6 through to verse 10, Krishna is talking about why he descends. So he descends to establish the principles of religion. Prabhupada explains the significance of this word shrajami. Here in the word for word he calls it manifest. In his class he also calls it either descend or manifest, because shrajami, as Prabhupada indicates here, can mean create, but for Krishna, who had spoken in the last verse, that he is unborn and his transcendental body never deteriorates, and he appears every millennium in his original transcendental form. So that Krishna has already said that he doesn't come in a new form. All his forms are transcendental and always existing. So therefore shrajami means manifest or descend. Why he descends to establish religion. So Prabhupada also talks about this dharmasya glani, which means discrepancies or problems with dharma, the rules of religion. So Prabhupada is making the point that when people are not surrendering to Krishna, and they're not following these God-given laws, they're not worshipping Krishna, then there is a discrepancy and Krishna will descend. So of course we know that right now there are so many discrepancies and so many atheistic governments all over the world. So Prabhupada gives the indication that Krishna is descending in his holy name. And by his holy name, when we act as Krishna's instruments and Lord Chaitanya's instruments, by propagating this holy name, this will help to rectify the principles of religion. I was reading also from Bhakti-Vinod Thakur. We know that one of our nama aparads is not to instruct the faithless. But Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, in his Harinam Chintamani, describes how that if we perform Sankirtan all over and the public can hear it, then this will create faith in people. He actually says that. So first in Harinam Chintamani, Bhakti-Vinod Thakur explains the great negative reactions for someone if they actually initiate someone who's faithless. But then he goes on to say, well, the way out of that is to do Sankirtan, and to do Sankirtan everywhere and anywhere, and as much as we can, and that will help to bring faith to the faithless. And then they will be able to take shelter of a devotee and follow the process, listen to them, hear them, and accept the transcendental knowledge. So that's the significance of this holy name of Sankirtan in this age of Kali. Prabhupada also spoke about Lord Buddha in his class, and how all the authorized religion have the words or instructions of God written down. He said how the Muslims have the Quran, the Christians have the Bible, the Buddhists, they think they don't believe in God, but Buddha is an incarnation of God, and he quotes the Shastras to prove that. So he says, therefore, they're still following God, even though they don't think they're following God. They still have to follow Buddha, so they're still following God. And he said even the Sikhs, they're following Guru Nanak, so they're still following an authority. So this idea of following authority is very important. And of course, for us, we follow Sanatana Dharma. Prabhupada mentions in the purport also that to accept someone as an incarnation of the Lord, one should go to the scriptures. In his class, he speaks about the fact that the Bhagavatam was written 5,000 years ago, and Lord Buddha appeared around 2,600 years ago. So when the Bhagavatam describes Lord Buddha, it's described in the future tense, because at the time when the Bhagavatam was written, Lord Buddha hadn't even appeared. So he gives us an evidence how the scriptures describe exactly who is going to appear, who their father and mother are, and where they're going to appear, and it's all given in the scriptures. And that way we can understand who is a proper, bona fide incarnation of the Lord. Prabhupada says sometimes he descends personally, sometimes he sends his bona fide representative in the form of his son or servant, or himself in some disguised form. So of course his son refers to Jesus Christ in the Christian religion, who in some ways taught a simplified version of religion in the same way that Buddha did, because Lord Jesus Christ was also facing people who were misusing the scriptures in order to conduct business and perform animal sacrifices in the synagogues. So he turned that over and he preached. In that way he preached against idol worship. Now sometimes the modern Christians misunderstand idol worship and deity worship. But actually when you read what's described in the Bible, it says the worship of some material form, some other form. So when we're worshipping the deity, we're not worshipping a material form, a form in the material world. We're worshipping Lord Krishna as he reveals himself through the writings of the scriptures, and he's authorized. Prabhupada gives the example of the post box also. If you just imagine some form of the Lord, it's like painting a box red and white and black, or red and blue, or whichever color the post box is in your country, and saying, this is my post box, I'm going to put my letters in it, and the letter doesn't go anywhere. But if you go to the street and you find the authorized post box, then that post box is as good as the post office. You put your letter on it and it will go to the destination. So Prabhupada says the deity is in some ways like the post box. He is authorized representative of Krishna. But in the Brihad Bhagavatam Rita, there's a more sweet description of the deity. He calls, in Sanatana Goswami in Brihad Bhagavatam Rita, calls the deity a playful incarnation of Krishna, because he comes and he very patiently stands on the altar and accepts us trying to serve him, even though we have no qualification. He accepts we put pins in him, we sometimes don't feed him properly, sometimes don't dress him properly. And this is one of his leelas, to come as an incarnation and accept our service. So this is why Lord Jesus spoke against idol worship. But we can establish that our worship of the deity is not idol worship. We are actually worshipping Krishna himself and the deity. If we manufacture some form, then it will be idol worship and it should be thrown out. So everything is given in the revealed scriptures. How we should worship, who we should worship, the form of the worship, what Krishna looks like is given in the scriptures. So that way we can follow those. And how principles of Bhagavad-Gita are spoken to Arjuna and other elevated persons. So this is the higher principles of religion. And Prabhupada makes the point that there appears to be higher and lower types of religion, but the same principles are being taught. Like if you go to an advanced mathematics class, 2 plus 2 still equals 4. So if you go to an advanced spiritual class, the same basic principles are repeated again, but you can learn more. And that's why the Vedic literatures are so good, and because they give us a very complete philosophy or science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other religions, some things are not explained clearly because, as Prabhupada has explained, the representative who's teaching the people can only teach up to the capacity of the people can understand. So Lord Jesus Christ was teaching to simple people. He was trying to stop them from being corrupt. So he had to preach a simple message. He didn't tell everything. In Christianity, you don't actually learn who God is. You learn that you're supposed to love God, but you don't actually learn who God is. And in Islam also, in the Quran, it talks about loving God as being the highest principle, but you still don't meet who God is. So it's only in the Vedas that we actually, as Prabhupada says, we get to know his mother's name, his father's name. We get to know his address and even his phone number. And Prabhupada says, you don't know who God is. I know who God is, so why don't you believe me? Because he's questioning these theologians. And he asks them, so who's God? And they say, well, we can't be exactly sure, and like that. And so Prabhupada says, but you don't know who God is. I know who God is, so just accept what I tell you. So like that, Krishna will go on to explain the two ways that he acts when he comes here. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chanduskritam, which is to protect the devotees and give pleasure to the devotees and to destroy the demons. And then that all comes under the mercy of Krishna, as described in this Bhagavatam that we're hearing at the moment. The story in the 7th canto begins with Yudhisthira Maharaj asking, well, how come it was that even the demons seem to come into your body? And this description is given. Krishna is acting for everyone's welfare all the time. He doesn't hold any grudges, and he doesn't do anything out of enmity. Even when he says here in the Bhagavad-Gita that he casts the demons into demoniac species life after life, he's doing it to ultimately to rectify them, because if they get sufficiently miserable from this material world, then eventually one day they may be rectified. Okay, so we'll stop here and ask for some comments or questions if anybody has any. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki jai.